Okay, I'm doing the boho earrings. First, you're going to need some chain. I got some chain on a roll. You're going to need some cutters for your tools. And once you cut the chain, make sure you cut them both at the same time. These are about 6 inches, and they're both the same length. Now, this is how they're going to hang. So you're going to want to put them that way. And here's the 2 pieces of wire. Now let's straighten them, and you want to make sure you cut them at the same time. Now you're going to need your round nose pliers to make a loop at the end. So let's start doing that. And we're not going to close it all the way. We're just going to do that on one side only for now. And that's going to go through the opening on the chain so that it can hang nice. So see how I did that? Right there. And then we're going to turn that around. But for now, I'm just going to show you that. We're going to then put it on the end. So now that I am putting this right through the loop in the chain. Now you can leave a little extra chain hanging if you found that your chain was too long. And then you can go ahead and clip the excess chain later. But if not, just hook it where you want and close it up. And make sure it's secure. Pull on it. Make sure it's not going to fall out and that you've closed it all the way. So it should look like this. Now I have a little excess chain, but I'll trim that later. And this is what it's going to look like. You see how I did that? Okay. Now for the next step. Now that one side's hooked, we're going to put some beads in it. But don't worry if you have excess wire, because we can always trim that later. Okay, so I went ahead and did the first row with my brown beads. And now we're going to do the second row. Now the first row I put 8 on each one, and that would be 4 beads on each side, and then you bend the wire gently. So now we're going to just repeat the process, but we're going to use some different colored beads. If I can open up the container. And we're just going to put them in. Now that we've closed the one end like we did before and made that loop, let's go ahead and load it. And with the excess wire, we could just go ahead and trim that after we're done. So once we put the beads in, and like I said, I'm not going to put as many beads as I put on the bottom. The bottom one has 8, 4 on each side, and then I kind of crimped the center and bent it. And you're going to be doing the same for the second row, except I'm only putting 6 beads, so that'll be 3 beads on each side, and then I will crimp it. So there's 3, and I'm going to slightly bend the wire, and I'm going to position to see where I want it, and then I'm going to load the other 3 beads in. Now you can do this with any kind of beads you want. You could do this with smaller beads, but if you go with bigger beads, you're going to have a bigger, longer chain. And the reason why I say you need a longer chain for the bigger beads is because it's going to take up a lot of space and they won't hang as long. So you want to keep that in mind. You could also do this with seed beads. Then you won't need as long of a chain. So once I'm done loading all my beads up, now I'm going to trim the excess wire and go ahead and make the loop on the other side. And I'm just going to look and see where I want to position these, because you want to have some space between the bottom row beads and those beads so they're not sitting on top of each other. So now I'm going to go ahead and clip the excess wiring, and I'm going to make a loop on that end. And you see how I'm doing that? It's going to be, you're making the loop like left to right, and then you're going to turn it around so it's like front to back. And I'm going to show you. See how I turned it? The other one, it's side, it's going from left to right when you do that, and then you just turn it around. And then you can position it and hook it through a loop in the chain. And you want to position it, play with it, see how high you want it from the other row, the first row of beads. So you're going to repeat the process again. Get yourself a piece of wire, make the loop, hook the loop either to the chain or just do the loop and load the beads, and then again clip the excess, make the other loop, turn those loops around, and then hook them to the chain. So right now we've got this one done, and I'm going to go ahead and get the opening, and I'm going to just show you when you're figuring it out, you should count the loops in your chain, because if you don't count the loops in your chain, you may do a lopsided thing. It may be too close than when you were looking at it. So make sure you got it right where you want it. It's always best to count the loops on your chain. So now I'm putting the loop through the chain, and I'm going to close it, making sure it's really tight. And I'm going to take my round nose pliers for that. And then I'm going to do the other side. Make sure that that's attached as well. So this is what it looks like so far. You want to make sure you're happy with that before you go ahead and attach the other side. You want to make sure that you're satisfied with the placement of the second row before you attach it. And it should look like that. Now you have to repeat the process for the other earring. So here I am, before I get to the other earring, I'm attaching the other side to the chain. Okay, now once it's hooked in there and you like the way it's sitting, make sure it's in there good, because it can easily come out if you don't close the loop. So that's the way it's going to sit. You could play with it, bend the wires, and that's what it's going to look like. Now I have to do the second earring. So before I start the second earring, I was going to hook these little cream colored starfish, or a turquoise one. I really don't know which one I'm going to pick. I was thinking the turquoise could match nice with the turquoise beads. This is a pair of boho earrings after all. But I'm really not sure. I like it, but then again, I like the cream colored ones. So I think I'm going to go with the cream colored ones. I could always change it later if I change my mind. That's easy. It's just a jump ring, and I can just undo the jump ring. So now let's start on the second earrings. So for the other pair, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. Repeat the same steps. Get your wire, make your loop. Don't close it all the way. See, that's how I make the loop. It's not a big loop, it's a small loop. And then I'm going to load the beads. Again, the second row won't have as many beads as the first row. So the first row had 4 on each side, 8 together. The second one's going to have 3 on each side, 6 together. And once I know that it's right where I want it, I count the loops on the chain to match up to the other earring, because they have to look alike. They are a pair, so you want to make sure that you do it the same way. And once you're sure that they look the same, now you can finagle with it, bend it, move it around, position it, because you want it to be shaped and you want them both to look the same. They are a pair. So there you have it. Now we have to attach the starfish to the bottom. Now you can hang anything. You could have a teardrop bead, a charm. I decided on the little starfish because they're beachy boho type earrings. So that's why I picked those. And like I said, later on, if I don't want those starfish, if I decide I want the turquoise ones, I could do that as well. So now what I'm doing is I'm putting a jump ring through the wire that I put through the charm, and I'm going to hook the starfish in the center between the bottom beads, right there. And then I'm going to repeat the process on the other earring. And that's what it should look like. Now, this is the time that you can assess to decide if you want to make a third row, but I decided to just make 2 rows of beads rather than 3. You could always go ahead and do that with another pair. Now, I'm going to need my earring fish hook. That right there. I didn't have a pewter one, so I got to use these silver ones, but it's okay. It's boho, it's mix and match. Later on, I could always purchase different color fish hooks. Or I can make my own using some of my wire. Okay, so now that I've opened it up, I have to determine where the center of the chain is so that it hangs evenly. And once I've determined that, I put it right through, and now I take my round nose pliers and I close the opening. And I have to make sure it's secure so they don't fall through. I don't want to be wearing them and then it just falls out. So, see, now it's hanging even. You want to make a good look at it, and that's what it's going to look like. Right like that. And once you're happy with that, go ahead and go to the next earring and repeat the process. Get your fish hook, find the center of your earring on your chain, go ahead, put it through, and then you want to close it with your round nose pliers, making sure it's secure. These are very easy, and this is what they're going to look like. You want to put them on and try them on to make sure they're hanging the way you want and it's the right length. You could always shorten the chain, and there you have it, a pair of beachy boho earrings. Really easy to do and fun.